I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands wherever you may be listening from and wherever my guests are joining from too. Sovereignty was never ceded. This was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hey everyone, and welcome to Jenuine Conversations. So in today's episode, I'm going to be chatting with Cathy Sison. She is a designer, art director, educator, and mentor who's worked across Melbourne and New York. Cathy's had an amazing career spanning across agency, in-house, and now she gets to teach the next generation of creatives. So we're going to talk today about how the industry has sort of changed in the last couple of years, what this means for grads entering into the workforce, and how AI is starting to shape the future as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey Cathy, thank you so much for coming on with me today.
No worries, it's a pleasure. Sorry, I'm very sound boothy at the moment.
No, I love it. It's very cool.
Trying to find the best earphones, but this is what we found, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all good. It matches the whole sound boothy, kind of vibes we're going for. Awesome. Well, to begin with, I just wanted to hear from you in terms of, your experience, how you sort of started off into your career to where you are now, where you're getting to sort of mentor and help the next generation of creatives. If you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Always been a creative kid growing up, and I kind of fell into graphic design. I had an illustration background, and yeah, just like any kind of graphic designer around, gosh, this is sparing back like 2010 maybe, which seems like a very, very long time, but just very, very hungry to be in the creative industry. And I kind of fell into retail, fashion, and then ultimately becoming a brand designer and working with dream companies like Thank You, Lululemon, did some calligraphy for Frank Green, and worked my way around. And then, I don't know, just kind of grew and built up my portfolio. And then I got an opportunity about 5 years ago to move to New York and teach, which I've never really quite done before, but always thought I would dabble in one day, and the opportunity was there, and I moved to New York and started teaching, and then became the head of New York Shillington Design School. So great experience, again, learning again, new programs, meeting new creatives, and I think that just kind of spearheaded my journey into mentorship, because I just kind of felt that I got really amazing mentors when I was growing up in the industry, and just my way of sort of giving back. And the industry is always changing and shifting, so I'm kind of with it and just ensuring that young designers have really good resources and knowledge, because kind of didn't have that when I was a designer. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's always good to give back for sure. And I think it's, getting that sort of one-on-one advice from someone that's been in the industry, I think is incredibly helpful, especially for people up and coming into the industry as well. Yeah. So in your sort of experience, with mentoring, like what are the massive kind of changes that you've sort of seen that, junior designers are facing when it comes to, first entering the workforce?
Yeah, well, the actual job description has changed. So back in my day of junior designers, gosh, that sounds so ancient, but it was really different. Like, you were really doing a lot of kind of smaller tasks, smaller jobs, kind of just what we would see mundane, but really great for a junior designer to get their head around, file management, sizing things down. Whereas like now, junior designers are kind of having that expectation to know more in terms of the tools, programs. Obviously, it's kind of birthed from social media as well too. So a lot of junior designers are finding themselves doing content roles and, doing things for social media, whereas before that wasn't the case. You were actually working on projects and shadowing senior designers, and yeah, kind of doing small tasks, but kind of helpful to bigger tasks, whereas now junior designers actually have a lot more responsibilities and roles, which is really, really exciting, but also kind of daunting. Like anyone entering the workplace, it's kind of nerve-wracking because there's a lot in there, and I think a lot of workplaces are trying to put a lot of pressure on a lot of junior designers, which I'm kind of seeing, which is really quite interesting, these unicorn roles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I see was super prevalent as well, as a recruiter, and even in my experience back in the day as well. I remember when I used to work as a designer, job searching and things like that. It did seem like most clients were looking for a unicorn, and I guess that's kind of evolved in time in terms of what that unicorn skill sets are sort of going to look like.
Yeah. I'm kind of grateful that I'm not a junior right now because I just don't know. But at the same time, these are skills that are so relevant to the industry. But yeah, it's just how are we framing these junior roles now? I'm always just questioning, is that a junior role, or that feels just kind of something that a midweight role might have. So I think a lot of people are having those conversations about more specialist roles as opposed to, I think we were so used to being quite a generalist, a bit of this, a bit of that. And now more than ever, there's more of these kind of like specialists, like, no, I only look at content. I only look at this kind of role. But yeah, it's quite interesting how it's shifting. Even in just the past 5 years, it's shifted. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the main sort of trends, I guess, you've noticed in the last 5 years?
Design trends or kind of, yeah, well, design trends, yeah, it's definitely motion and animation and video. Um, Not to say that, publication or static design doesn't have a place, but definitely I think if things aren't moving and engaging, and I think that's also to do with smartphones, like people are viewing things online a lot more than they were used to. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of that. I'm also seeing a lot of anti-design, which I kind of love, which kind of, I think, for a while there was that kind of very strict Swiss design that everyone was still loving, and I think definitely is amazing. But I think in terms of the birth of just, young designers just exploring and breaking rules, I really love the kind of like anti-design era because it's just, yeah, it's exciting. Other trends, I think, yeah, more often than not, I think illustrators are really kind of coming to the forefront. It adds that personality, which I think a lot of designers are always kind of like searching for that kind of niche and style. And I know we'll probably unpack that a little bit more, but, as AI becomes so prevalent, I think everyone is really kind of honing in on what their style is before it starts to become same kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That I would say that's probably the number one sort of tip I'm giving to people is have that sort of distinct kind of style, and that personality sort of punching through because, yeah, AI, and we'll definitely get into that very hot topic,
Yeah.
has its place. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's got its place. But yeah, I just think having that sort of point of difference, and I like, the sounds of, I would need to see a visual, I guess, of like the sort of anti kind of design movement. That sounds like lots of fun
I think
because there's
that's
definitely a
on
place.
Instagram. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of searching all those trends. It's like people just putting on things on Instagram, and I just love that it's just, yeah, it's almost like a response to a lot of things that have been happening socially, but also just in terms of design in general, like people commenting on like, let's just not do that, let's do the opposite. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I guess in your experience, do you think you would see, it's particularly like kind of more in-house sort of brands kind of leaning into that kind of style, or is that something that would be more so seen in, the agency kind of space, or if someone was a freelancer and even expanding outside of being a graphic designer, maybe doing just illustration or just being a full-blown artist of some variety?
I think it's definitely like in the freelancing realm, or like, yeah, people who are just kind of wanting that kind of graphic design freedom. I don't really see a lot of the anti-design aesthetics in, like, if you're in in-house branding or in agency, because I think longevity is probably the key thing with branding designers or any agency working on big projects. So yeah, but I would love that though. But at the same time, when you're working with brands, it's really hard to get that buy-in to kind of go completely rogue. But I would love that. I'd love a brand to just be like, you know what, we're just going to go off the grid and do something else. But I think, but that's what I love about branding design. There's a system, and it works, and in its simplest form, and just seeing how it can kind of scale and travel through the test of time. There's some, classic designs that I've always seen, especially living in New York. It's like, I always show students Massimo Vignelli, and it's a, beautiful subway map, and it hasn't changed, and it's been how many years now, but it still has longevity. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, yeah, going into, the trendy topic of, I guess, the last sort of year or so, talking about AI, as a mentor, sort of chatting to the next generation of creatives, what kind of tips or, I guess, sort of guidance do you sort of give your students? And I guess there's the emotional side to it as well, that there's a lot of anxiety about it and it kind of feels like we're just like heading into this dystopian new world. How do you sort of go about kind of, mentoring and, just, I guess, giving that kind of emotional kind of reassurance as well, as a mentor?
Absolutely. And it's something I don't have a day where there's no mention of AI. And I wish there was a day where I don't even talk about it, but it
Yeah.
just always sort of pops up some way or form. But it's just something that I think also being really honest with students, because as much as I am a mentor and a teacher and an educator, I'm also in the same boat as well as them, and kind of really being vulnerable with them and being like, I'm scared too, guys. Like, this is also my career. This is also something that I'm curious about. And so opening it up that way and not feeling like, I don't think, although
Oh,
some people
sorry,
might.
you cut out a little
Yeah.
bit there, Kathy.
Oh,
Sorry, could I
sorry.
get you
Yeah,
to just
got it.
repeat that last bit?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Um, yeah, I always just try to just sort of, lead with kind of like, I'm on the same boat as you. I'm also kind of fearful because I also see these tools doing amazing things. And I'm in those conversations, and I'm also on LinkedIn where everybody is having their opinion about AI. And I personally don't think that there is a right answer with AI. We all don't have the answers. We're all sort of figuring that out. And I think the responsibility as me as an educator is to also do my research and also look at what's happening and play around with the tools and kind of have a conversation with students. I don't really want to gear them one way and say, this is what this is and this is what this is. I think definitely the responsibility is talking about ethics and copyright. And I think that's just in general. I don't think it should be geared towards AI. We shouldn't be stealing artwork in general. So
Exactly,
I
yeah.
think having that mindset and then, seeing what this technology does, I think we shouldn't also resist what's happening and seeing what's good, because, yeah, that's kind of like how technology's evolved anyways. Like, we never used to have a smartphone, and look how the way it's changed our lives, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But it's just kind of evolving with it. But my whole thing is just to do as much research as I can, and include students in those conversations, because they're also on the platforms, they're also reading articles, and I also learn with them. And so I think, yeah, talking about what feels right, what doesn't feel right. Let's have a look at what the designs that they can do with ChatGPT. Do we like it? Do we not? And we just really kind of form our own genuine opinions. And I think that's the best thing that you can do as an educator, and not really shut it down, not really kind of enforce something, but really open it up and, us kind of come together as like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can see what's happening there. But it is challenging, and it's happening quicker for us as educators to really wrap our own heads about it, because then we're like,
Yeah.
we need to teach some things. So we're definitely working kind of in a reactive space. And so I don't think that we will know in a couple of years' time the real effects of it. But there's definitely so much conversations to be had about it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And can I ask a cheeky question? And of course, no names or, any specific examples need to be mentioned. But have you come across any kind of work, I guess, that your students have done where it's involved AI? Like, could you give any examples of where it was a great involvement or where it maybe wasn't so much?
Oh my God, absolutely, but I will not name the name. But
Yes.
I teach branding, and their very last assignment is to create a brand experience, and it's really just flourishing their ideas of what it could be. It could be a pop-up, it could be an activation, it could be, I don't know, a store in Mars. Like, I really do, especially my classes, empower creative thinking beyond. And I kind of opened it up. I said, look, if AI is something that you feel like will help and generate this idea into a visual, experiment with it. I don't want you to resist. And I think because we hadn't used AI in any previous assignments, I had hoped to build up their knowledge that the prompts were so good that it would really kind of fit the brief, and it was really good. like a little bit too good in terms of like it got everything that they kind of envisioned in their representation. Yeah, it almost felt too polished, but at the same time, it brought their concept to life. And I was definitely impressed because I think it was purely pitch and proposal. It wasn't the output. And I think that's a conversation of then what is output when we think about AI. So that's a really great example of how a student was able to really bring their vision to life as opposed to doing 1,000 pictures of a mood board to kind of convey one thing.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like AI in terms of image generating kind of works. When it doesn't work, it's when students rely on ChatGPT, and we all use ChatGPT for different reasons and things, but when it's used for critical thinking and reflections and their own opinions, it's like reading a robot essay, and I miss the personality. I'm gonna quote a speaker that I saw yesterday at Process, and his name's Peter Borg, and he was like, God, I miss seeing a spelling mistake, like how human. And I literally cackled out loud, and I was at the front, so I feel embarrassed, but I just love that because I sometimes I kind of read these essays by these students who are still quite new into this world of design, and they're not jaded like me sometimes with the with the industry, and I love their approach and their perspective. They've just got really a beautiful mind when they think about things, and I just sometimes get a bit disappointed that I just like, oh my God, you're letting a robot ruin all that imagination. And I kind of do crave a little grammar, little error, just so I know that and it also shows effort that they really are curating an essay. So the ChatGPT essay writing and critical thinking has really kind of hurt a lot of people in terms of how they express themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you're not sort of, exercising that kind of muscle of being able to verbalize and write down, what your ideas are, because that's a big key part of being a designer, because you're going to be working with people who don't get design and aren't going to get to how you got from point A to point B. So that's something that needs to be sort of demonstrated in your writing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I try to do in my classes, just standing up, presenting your work. It's okay to just say, fumble in words. It's the most human thing you can do is really connect with people about your work. And I think, when we're starting to rely on AI to describe things for us and that's when we sort of start to make ourselves redundant, when we can't even do that, when we can. Those are the things that I kind of worry with AI, is when we're missing those just kind of common conversational things, and always relying on something. And I think that's the thing, we kind of fear our own creativity, and I try to infuse creative confidence in my classes, even if it's just just being proud of at least something that you achieved within 3 hours, or you tackled that idea, you got a concept done. That to me is what I'm trying to sort of focus on more than finished work.
And the perfectionism sort of side of things, I think that's where a lot of creativity can be lost. Yeah, definitely. So say, for example, for a graduate that's, finishing up at the end of this year and sort of going into their first role, kind of, I guess, touching on the whole people side of things and, not being a perfect robot, things like that. What kind of advice would you give them for, soft skills within the workspace to really kind of, I guess, not so much stand their ground, but really just implant why they're important to a workforce and why some of those smaller tasks, that are a part of their role can't just be, outputted to ChatGPT or whatever other software's out there?
Yeah, I think what's really unique about the classes that I teach are they're quite small. So I really do get to have this like one-on-one interaction with them and tell them about like, this is really great how you present, and just giving them that practice and confidence. And then by the time that they are sort of in that graduation mode, they're really kind of nervous into stepping into the industry. And so they're always just looking for some kind of reassurance about their work, their skills. But really, I kind of hone in on just being like, do you love what you do? Is this what you want to do for your career? And if that's the case, then also just kind of be a good person. It's also just like reflective of your work that you're trying to put out there. So it takes time. I think it really does. It's developing a relationship and a trust, and giving them as much advice, because I think, like anything, I can say all the things and give them all the. I don't want to trauma dump the stuff that I went through, but it's like I can tell them all the things that I went through. But it really is that experience is going to help them and grow as a designer. So I kind of have to just be like, you're just going to have to go for it and trust your skills and work out the kind of person you are and what kind of work that you want to gravitate towards. Because I think if you want to work with companies, you're going to have to learn to work with the team. If you want to be a freelance, that's so great as well. But you also have to know how to work and manage your own time and someone else's time as well too. So I definitely give prompts, but it's one of those things where I just, as a teacher, I have to let go and be like, you will learn as you go, and I'll hear about it later. But yeah, there's not so much, control or guidance I can kind of do. But I always just try to make sure that they're confident with their book. That's just always my thing, because I feel like that's the thing that I can actually help them and influence and gear them into a good career, is if I can give them as much knowledge and feedback for their portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your favorite part of being a mentor?
It's definitely at the end where I feel like they feel confident in themselves. They've achieved kind of something that they didn't think that they could achieve. It's usually the end. I think that's probably, the gratifying part, and knowing that I was even somewhat a part of it or helpful. Because I have had, teachers in the past where I felt like I just couldn't even connect with them, or they didn't even know who I was. And I don't know, I just like the fact that I can at least be assistants of someone's creative career, because I had great mentorship growing up, and people that I met just guiding me through my career, and I'm so grateful for that. So I kind of feel like, this is just a good way. And I don't know, I think it's just I'm having fun with it. I think I always thought that I'm like, oh, maybe I wouldn't like it, or maybe I'll, but I like the challenges of just trying to create these learning environments. No class for me is ever the same. I'm always trying to go, ooh, how can I make this more fun? How can I make this more engaging? What else do they need to learn? Am I really, giving them all what they need to know? Sometimes I'm giving them too much, which, I've heard, but it's okay. They get there in the end, but yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And what do you think, I guess, are the kind of top three, sort of skills that, a junior would sort of need coming into the industry? Or do you think there's room to be completely specialized in one kind of niche skill set? Or is it better to be, a bit of a unicorn?
It's a really good question, actually. I think for juniors, they've just got to still have that passion and hunger. We're looking at employers who are quite senior, and so they're still kind of looking for that, really good work ethic. And I think that sometimes young junior designers still kind of sort of, I guess, struggle with that idea of like, what is that, But I think having a passion and a drive is super important. The skill set, I try not to, stress too much. There's like, you don't have to know everything about the programs. Yes, you need to know at least the basics and the fundamentals, but you grow those skill sets as you grow. But trying to align yourself with a company that's going to help mentor you is super key. So the attitude is essential. I always tell juniors, I'm like, you've got to be workable. Like, employees want to see potential in you, and if you're not showing any kind of excitement or some kind of enthusiasm about the company, you're just going to be amongst the rest. You really do got to sort of stand out. And in terms of like, I guess, specialized roles and, being kind of a generalist, I know junior designers, there is that generalist role that we're seeing right now, that unicorn role. And I would just tell junior designers, really read that job description, because if there's something that doesn't feel right, don't go in it just because it's like a junior role. Really look through and go, actually, no, there are some skills that I can bring to the table, and work it out that way. But I would kind of really resist on applying for every single junior role, because some of them are really great and some of them are just kind of really bespoke. So that's really important. And I think for any role as well too. I've been, if you look at senior designer roles, it's also, it's like, oh, is it senior designer, or it feels very managerial. But yeah, I think with a junior, it really is about your attitude towards working and where you want to grow as a designer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think passion for whether it's the role specifically or the industry that you're looking to move into, I think that really sort of shines through. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I give people, particularly from, chatting to people that are graduates or juniors, is you're going to be great at something where you are passionate about it and you've got that genuine sort of desire to do it. So that's going to come through, because people hire people. So if you can make that kind of connection and that sort of initial impression, it goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of ties back with that AI. It's like, yes, AI is that, but it's like your personality, who you are, that's something that I guess AI can't really take away. Because, yeah, people want to work with people, and, what AI can do is a lot of efficiency and take away a lot of kind of like, the mundane tasks. Whereas like, I feel like this is a really thriving time for a lot of creatives to really be themselves and really show themselves who they are. Because yeah, there's going to be that search for that, because it's like, I think AI will only churn out as much as it can, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is a really great time to kind of do something different and bold, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And on the flip side of things, I guess, what kind of advice would you give, businesses, whether it's, corporate, sort of in-house brand or agencies, when it comes to hiring juniors? Like, what kind of generalized advice would you give them?
Yeah, I really want a lot of brands and businesses to take that chance. Like, I think sometimes there is that bit of risk factor of like, training and what we need to do. But I think really finding someone that really wants to invest in the company, I think the output would be so great. I think what's happening now with a lot of businesses is that they are just really trying to, I wouldn't say reshape their kind of team, but they're trying to look for efficiencies. They're really trying to see what they can do with certain projects, because what's happening now, not all, but it's like not a lot of agencies and companies have the best budgets at the moment. It's just been a bit of a recovery and everyone's trying to sort of be sustainable. But I think junior designers, there's such a need, because there are so many jobs that, whether it's doing socials, whether it's kind of like, working on image treatment. I think there are so many things that junior designers are so hungry to do. And I think investing their time with a junior is so much beneficial and great for the team, for like a senior designer, even a midweight, to start mentoring and managing, because that's, I think, helps growth. It helps team culture and morale. So yeah, I think it's definitely a key thing that businesses need to just keep going and investing in. But yeah, I think it really sort of depends. I think sometimes there are smaller agencies that are kind of struggling with budget, and I'm telling a lot of my students that sometimes it's not necessarily you as a designer that they're, not wanting to employ. It's sometimes the landscape of what's happening in the economy and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sometimes the more kind of boring economy chat you can
Yeah,
come
I know.
into things when giving advice. I know that for sure. Awesome. And I guess for my, my final sort of question, if you could sort of reflect and, sort of think about giving advice to your younger self when you first started in the industry, what advice would you give to yourself in starting out? And would you do anything differently?
When you always hear this question, and I'm just like, God, what would I tell myself? I mean, I'm really glad that I didn't give up on graphic design, because I think there was just a real kind of point where I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to get a job. I don't know if my book's good enough. So I'm kind of glad that I just kind of kept with it. I was very persistent that I was like, I think this is the only thing I meant to do. Like I couldn't think of anything else. I definitely loved creativity, but I just was really just so adamant that this was going to work for me. So I'm glad I told myself that. I think what I would tell my younger self was just to stop overthinking it a little bit too much. I think I was very sort of, this is back in the day where I was very much like, I need this role, I need to move up into these kind of like senior roles. I was kind of definitely chasing titles. And I think I got to a point where I was like, I think I just want to do good work. Like, I think I really wanted to sort of, and I think when that clicked for me, I think I just stopped going, oh, okay, these high roles, which I think was told to me that was very luxurious and really cool on the CV. I think once I started working with brands that I really respected, I was like, oh no, I just want to fill my book with all the good things and work with really good people. And then I think that just kind of put the pressure off me a lot. And I started to really just enjoy my career. So I would tell my younger self, just enjoy the ride. And don't get so anxious because I think we all get this kind of sense of comparison, and we see as much as we are so supportive of our friends, our designer friends, we also got to know that we're on a different path. And I think when I went into teaching, I was also a little bit like, whoa, what am I doing? Is this going to hurt my career? Am I kind of making myself redundant? I don't know. And then it changed my life. It took me to New York, and I'm so grateful for that. So I think, just try not to overthink every step in your career, and know that it's like things will always shift and change. And it's not the end of the world if you move on to another career, or if you decide to sort of go, oh, you know what, I think I'm going to try, product design, or I think I want to go into more research, or, I love to be on the recruiting side and work with creators and build their careers. I think everyone's path is different. So when you're young, you just feel like you need to chase something that's just sold to you in terms of what a career trajectory is. But I honestly think that it's definitely not linear. I wish I would just tell myself, just enjoy, do some things, do more side projects. Really wish I told my younger self to start a YouTube, because I would have just monetized by now. But now I don't know if that's too late. But yeah, just have that exploration, because I think you'll find your feet eventually,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think something that sort of comes with age is just caring less and overthinking less. But early on, it's so easy to compare and just overthink the crap out of what you're doing. I used to do that when I worked as a designer. I sapped the joy out of it completely for myself, which is a shame,
Yes.
But I think that's a really valuable insight, and thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, that's all good. Well, it's been great chatting with you. And I feel like, this is going to really resonate with a lot of, juniors out there, or people still studying, but as well as, just employers as well, just getting a bit of an idea of, what's going on, and just taking time, I guess, to kind of assess their values as a business. Because like I said, and I'll say it probably every day of my 9 to 5 here at Creative Natives, people hire people at the end of the day. So I think that's, an important sort of thing to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. See you later.
See ya.